Good morning, everybody. My name is Glenn Morris. I have the privilege of serving as the president and CEO of the Santa Maria Valley Chamber of Commerce. But I'm here today also representing all of the chambers of commerce in Santa Barbara County. We are pleased to be able to partner on a regular basis with the chambers up and down the county to bring programs like this to all members and businesses across the county on topics that are of importance to everybody, all businesses, and aren't community specific. So we are grateful for those who are joining with us today and appreciate the support of the chambers of commerces up and down the county as we work together to make businesses more successful. Our topic today is a unique one, but it's one that's growing in both importance, but also maybe awareness. Certainly if you pay any attention to the media news of late, the risk that exists to our data systems, to our network systems, has been highlighted, right? There have been some very high-profile cases of businesses and institutions being disrupted in very significant ways, through bad actors interfering with their computer systems. This last week we saw the president raise this as to the level of an international security conversation in his discussions in Europe and with the Russians on cybersecurity, to the point of submitting apparently a list of critical infrastructure that everyone ought to agree should be left alone. Unfortunately, I don't think just business operating systems were one of those defined areas of hands off, but we certainly think that they should be as well, which means we have to take action on our own to protect our systems. And so while this is certainly an international issue and a national security kind of issue, it also is a very local, very direct issue that impacts businesses at different ways every day. Certainly the changing ways that we are conducting our work and interacting with our employees and customers creates new challenges and opportunities. And so those are some of the things that we want to discuss today and see if there aren't some ideas out there that help make us all a little smarter and a little safer. To lead us in that discussion today, I'm pleased to be joined by Jeff Franklin. Jeff is a VCIO. That's probably not a common title out there yet, but it's certainly reflective, I think, of the kind of work that CIO Solutions does up and down our region. They have been a significant partner, I know, for our organization and probably for many of yours. And we appreciated their willingness to kind of respond quickly and share some of their expertise and the information that they're gathering. Jeff has been with CIO Solutions for, Jeff, I think it said 6 or 7 years now. Is that?
Yeah, I started in the beginning of 2015.
There you
just
go.
over 6 years.
Yeah, so Jeff's an expert technology strategist and consultant, and in that role, he works with businesses of all sizes, all industries, up and down the Central Coast, and I know they're also over in the Central Valley, and have so that gives them, I think, a broad perspective of the issues that are out there and the solutions that exist to respond to them. They are also, I think, one of the leading thought leaders in our region, paying attention not just to the operational issues that we deal with day in and day out, but what's out on the horizon and what we ought to be thinking about that's coming soon. So, Jeff, thanks for joining with us today and sharing some expertise. I'm gonna go off camera here for just a minute so that people can focus on you and the information you're gonna share. for the benefit of the attendees, as Jeff is going through his presentation, if you have questions, we encourage you to use the Q&A button at the bottom. We all have become Zoom experts now, so that should be easy to find. But if you'll type them in there, we'll kind of monitor that as we go. And if there's a natural place to address them during the presentation, we'll certainly do that. If not, we'll make sure at the end of the show, of Jeff's remarks, that we circle back and capture those questions and be open to additional ones at that point. So, Jeff, with that, I'm going to step away and let you take us through the presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, so I appreciate the introduction, Glenn. As Glenn mentioned, I'm a VCIO at CIO Solutions. And that means that I work with local companies. My smallest customers have about 10 employees. My largest customers have just over 300. And I work with them to talk about IT strategy, to talk about trends that we're seeing in the real world, things that other customers are facing, and it's a way for businesses to take advantage of the things that other businesses have had happen to them or are doing to address problems in our industry, and really work together to improve the productivity of everybody. Our mission at CIO Solutions is to enhance the productivity of the customers that we work with. So today we're going to be talking about the unsettling reality of cybersecurity risk in 2021 and what you can do about it. So the reason why we feel that our current state of cybersecurity is the way that it is because of COVID and what has changed because of COVID. So during COVID, a lot of businesses went to this hybrid remote work environment, and remote work changed the security landscape dramatically. Our communication workflows changed. Previously, we had people that were in the same office. They were able to have frequent conversations. They were able to talk to the person next to them. They were able to work together closely. You could quickly confirm requests in person with somebody right next to you if you got an email or some sort of message that you weren't expecting. Now we have varying communication forums. We have customers that are adopting Slack or Teams. They're using phones, they're using emails, they're texting back and forth. There are a variety of ways that people are communicating, and often it's not consistent across the organization. What we're seeing is that there's less spontaneous conversation because our personal lives are getting busier. We're dealing with, kids that have to do homeschooling and all of these other things that are in our home environment that weren't distractions when we were in the office. From a business technology standpoint, we used to have standardization on security across all company-owned equipment. During work from home, we saw that a lot of people are starting to work from their personal computers. They're using their personal laptops. They might be taking old hardware from their office home because it's available to them. And we went from supporting a single organization's offices to supporting, all of their employees' homes. So security isn't standard across people's homes. They might be using older operating systems that are no longer supported. They might not have patching policies in place to make sure that they're getting their Windows updates. They might not have antivirus software that is up to snuff from a security standpoint. And it kind of ended up being a free-for-all from a technology standpoint. Talking about data management, before COVID, most of our customers had a central location for storing data. They had a server inside their office. They might have had a NAS device or some sort of cloud environment that they were working on, and they had central storage locations. There were fewer applications being used because they only had to use their line of business applications, and communications tend to happen verbally. Now, a lot of offices adopted SaaS applications like Dropbox or Citrix ShareFile or Microsoft Teams, Google Drive. There's a lot of others that would fit into this category. And we're often not backing up the data like we used to be. Meaning, Dropbox is a third-party file storage alternative to having a file server in your office. But Dropbox doesn't have there isn't the expectation that Dropbox is going to be backing up your files to protect you from something malicious. They would be able to protect you from something like one of their data centers going down or them having a network issue, but it's not necessarily their responsibility to protect you from a malicious employee deleting something or from a threat actor getting in and ransoming your data or encrypting your data or deleting your data. And backups were the way that we used to protect customers from that. And it's more difficult now as they're adopting, a broader solution. There's a risk of data loss and hacking that this. So all these changes have impacted the security landscape. Hackers have adapted to the new way that we're working. They're using spear phishing campaigns, which are a targeted form of a customized attack that uses personal information about you to make you trust them and to do something for them. They often spoof email addresses or they spoof display names to appear to be from a trusted source. So I'm sure everybody has seen one of these emails before. You get an email and it's from the name of your CEO, but it's at some other email address. And they're asking you to buy Apple gift cards, or they're asking you to wire them money or to do something because there's a sense of urgency and there's this known entity on the emails. And people fall for it. People fall for it every day. There's also these credential harvesting techniques where they will send you an email that says, this is from Office 365 and you need to update your password. And you click on a link and you update your password and they've now stolen your credential because they asked you for your old password. So this is an attack in which hackers use emails appearing to be from a trusted service. This might be a banking service. This might be something like I mentioned, Microsoft Office 365 or other popular email services. And the idea is to trick you into entering your credentials and for them to steal those. In our security landscape currently, threat actors are out there looking for targets and they're finding success. 32% of all breaches involve phishing. 37% of untrained users fail phishing tests, and 96% of phishing attacks come through email. Typical financial losses that we see are between $30,000 and $250,000. And in the last year, I know of at least 4 different companies locally that were hit to the tune of $250,000. Common faces of phishing: a trusted vendor, a colleague or company executive, a well-known that you do business with. And here's how it works. So you get an email from somebody requesting action on their behalf, pay an invoice, make a purchase, transfer funds. So our CEO's name is Eric Egolf. This is an email that Jamie, our marketing person, received from Eric Egolf. And it came from staffxmasgift4@gmail.com. So clearly it's not from his email address. But when you're reading this on something like an iPhone, it shows Eric Egolf. And you actually have to highlight his name to see the email address that it comes from. So you have to do a little bit of digging. An Outlook on your computer, it's a little bit easier to tell. Hi, Jamie, I'm planning to surprise some of the staff with gifts and your confidentiality be appreciated so as not to ruin the surprise. I want you to make a purchase quickly on my behalf. What local store do you think we have around to make this purchase? I'm considering gift cards like Visa or Target, Amex gift cards. Since we have them almost everywhere, let me know what you suggest about this plan before purchasing. Everyone had a difficult year in 2020. 2021 is already shaping up to be a difficult year. A small gesture like this can make a big difference. Regards, Chief Executive Officer, CIO Solutions. Now, why does this work? Well, this works because there are trust signals from the sender. There's familiarity. It's an authority figure. There's names of trusted vendors that are included in here, Visa, Amex, Target, companies that we're used to working with, Apple. There's a sense of urgency. It's a surprise, it's time sensitive, past due, please get them for me now. Looking for advice, please respond. Provides a dollar amount, a process to follow. There's thorough instructions often included in these. So they're looking for a response, and there will be an email communication back and forth between this person and Jamie if she responds to it. And, sometimes they'll slip up and you can catch them in it. But I've seen these email chains go fairly far before an employee actually catches it. And that's surprising and scary to me. But the truth is that happens. Requesting credentials. Secure your account, update password, verify. So here's an example email. This one came from SunTrust, secure@suntrust.com, subject, account temporarily suspended. Dear SunTrust client, as part of our security measures, we regularly screen activity in the SunTrust online banking system. We recently contacted you after noticing on your online account, which is been accessed unusually. So there's some broken English there, and that does happen from time to time, and it's a good way to pick these things out. To view your account, visit suntrust.com, log into online banking with your user ID and password, select your account. We appreciate your business and are committed to helping you reach your financial goals. Call us at 1-800-SunTrust or stop by your local branch to learn more about our helpful products and services. So this one shows that it actually came from secure@suntrust.com. So they're spoofing that address, which is possible. Somebody can send you an email that says from Eric Egolf, eegolf@ciosolutions.com, and it not actually be from Eric Egolf. There are trust signals from the vendor. Secure is in the name. The logo is present on the email. There's a website URL, suntrust.com. There's a sense of urgency. The account was security measures, change your password, suspicious activity. These are all things that we often see. There's an easy resolution. Enter credentials online to fix this issue. This type of email is the scariest. And when you click on that link, it'll bring you to a website that looks like SunTrust. And it's something that they cleverly disguised to look just like SunTrust website. And you'll enter your credentials in, and oftentimes they can even make their website pass through your credentials into the real SunTrust, so that you do get logged in and you view your account security stuff and everything looks fine. And you're like, well, I don't understand why I got this email, but oh well, I go on with my day. But they harvested your credentials during that time, and now they have access to your bank account. The easiest way to avoid something like this is if you get an email like this from one of your financial institutions or from a vendor that you're not expecting to, or something along those lines, you want to visit the site directly. Don't click on the link inside the email, especially if you're not expecting it. Instead, open up a web browser, go to suntrust.com through your normal method and access it that way. Sometimes there will be a phone number that's included in the email that is actually not the phone number that works with that business. So if you're going to call them and circumvent the email in that way, you should look at the phone number on the back of your credit card, on your bank account statement, Google it online, try to find what the actual phone number is before just calling the one that is in the email. I get spoof phone calls and things like that all the time. We are calling you because your Apple account has been suspended. There are people that are masquerading, pretending to be employees from these large companies. And you call in and they verify your account information, and then they get your login or other information. It might just be the last four of your social security number. It might be to validate your address. And over time, they can build a profile of you and steal your information. So let's walk through a typical breach. So it starts with email phishing. Phishing campaign sends emails to multiple addresses across multiple clients. These campaigns can sometimes even originate from known good addresses. There is a human error or bite. Someone at your office clicks a link from a phishing campaign. There's a credential harvest that happens. The sender harvests the email credentials when the link is opened. The employee is unaware of this, but the threat actor can now log into that employee's email account from their own computer. Observation and research. The threat actor monitors the mailbox, average of 70 to 90 days, to learn business processes and find an angle. And then they create custom rules on the mailbox to circumvent or intercept email that you were expecting to receive and hide it from the employee who should be using the mailbox. Then there's an action with financial losses. The threat actor uses your business practices to steal your money. And then at the end of it, they send out a spam bomb and create additional risk for other companies that you work with. So this is a type of attack that we see often. And when I talk about having companies that were affected and losses to the tune of $250,000 a piece over 4 customers over the last year, these are legitimate things that we have seen. So an employee at a company gets an email and they click on that email and it says something like, your Office 365 password is about to expire, or you need to you need to update your billing information in Office 365. And Office 365 is a popular one because a lot of customers use it. It's one of the most widely used email applications in the world at this point. So your employee goes in and they enter in their email credentials to fix their account. And somebody then can log into their mailbox. They log in remotely and they're viewing all of their mail and looking through it. And they're trying to find an angle to steal money from your business. So we had a customer that they were expecting an invoice from a vendor that they were working with. And the name was like, John's Company. And threat actor created a new domain, and instead of it being John's Company, they called it John's Cornpany, C-O-R-N instead of C-O-M-P-A-N-Y. And at first glance, it looks the same. Like you look at it, you're expecting this thing from John's Company. There's an invoice attached. There's bank routing information in the email. It's everything that they were expecting to receive from this company. But there's a misspelling in the email address. Very simple one that was very difficult to detect. We had a customer that then remitted payment to this vendor. They were expecting this invoice. It was about the amount that they were expecting, and they sent a payment. And that money was just stolen and gone. And throughout that time, there were rules that were created in their mailbox. So this threat actor was taking the emails that were coming from their actual vendor and corresponding with their vendor on their behalf. And then they were also corresponding with people at the company, posing as an employee at that company, the customer that actually had money stolen from them. So there is a way this type of breach, and that is with multi-factor authentication. So our recommendation for all of our customers is that they utilize multi-factor authentication to protect their email accounts. Microsoft offers this for free as part of Office 365. It's Microsoft MFA. And just maintain vigilance. So you want to don't accept text links at face value. You want to hover over a text link and you want to read the text link to make sure that it's going to the place where it says it's going to, like that SunTrust email. Hover over that SunTrust, make sure it's going to suntrust.com and that it's not taking you to the wrong place. Don't just click on links or open attachments. Up the communication. Check with the sender via phone or another messaging solution, not using email because that email address might have been compromised. Make a phone call, send a text message, use Slack, use Teams if your company uses those types of applications. Don't open an attachment or a link that you weren't expecting. Go to the source. Don't use phone numbers or links provided in the email. Instead, go to the website directly and enter credentials there. Search for the site and get phone numbers from the source. Don't believe display names. Scrutinize sender addresses. Display name may say John Doe, but the email may say John Hack at notyourcompany.com, or even a slightly misspelled version of the true John Doe, jdoe at company.com. And then as a business, adopt MFA. Multi-factor authentication is the single biggest way to protect your organization from having compromised email accounts that not only affect you and your business, but can also affect your vendors, can take money from your vendors, can make it so that vendors or other people that you're working with are frustrated with you or potentially have liability against you, the ability to sue you for damages if there's money that is stolen from them by somebody masquerading as you because you have an email account. So multi-factor authentication is the process of using something you know, like a password, and something you have, like a cell phone, to authenticate you into your account. Most people will have used these for bank accounts. So like if you're a Chase customer, I know Chase requires that you have multi-factor authentication. So when you log in from a new device, they send you a 10-digit PIN code on your phone as a text message, and you've got 30 minutes to type that in, and it authenticates your account and verifies that you are you and that they didn't just steal your password from somewhere. Passwords alone are no longer sufficient. The additional layer of security with credential harvesting on the rise, and this secures business applications. We primarily use it for email, but it can be used to secure the cloud. So if you work in a private cloud, like our CIO private cloud, you can use MFA to log into that application. If you use a cloud-based application to do HR or payroll processes, or to manage your customer relations, like your CRM, customer manager, or your ERP software that does, your financial bill pay and that kind of stuff. Often those can be secured with two-factor authentication as well. And the vendors for those products should be able to help you out with it, or your IT provider should be able to help you out with that. We're asking all of our customers to have cyber liability insurance. Breaches are costly and threats are unpredictable. Businesses are more dependent on technology than ever before, and the risk continues to rise. Cyber liability insurance has become a necessity in ensuring in the case of a breach that the threat is mitigated, and it's increasingly becoming a requirement. And it's the only way to really truly be able to sleep at night. And this is a big thing. And we're seeing insurance companies paying out huge claims for customers that are getting hit by these types of events like I just described. And they bring in their cyber liability insurance company, they bring in a professional cybersecurity corporation that actually deals with breaches, because during a breach, you've got a security firm who specialize, and you've got the IT company like us that specializes in the remediation of the threats that they find. So we'll bring in a third party. We normally work with Breadcrumb Cybersecurity in Fresno, and they'll go in and they'll determine exactly how a breach occurred and the sequence of events and provide all of the information, and they'll report to the FBI, and they'll work with the insurance company on your behalf, and they'll figure out exactly what happened and build that chain of events. And it allows your insurance company to be able to pay that claim, but also to be able to ensure that you end up in a more secure place after the breach than you were before the breach, and that it doesn't happen again. Additional security enhancements. Next generation antivirus. Hacking techniques have become less detectable by standard antivirus softwares. So we have started deploying next gen antivirus solutions, which are leveraging AI to detect behavioral analysis on computers. So we moved this year from WebRoot, which is our historic antivirus. It's a definitions-based antivirus. And what that means is WebRoot reaches out to the internet and it says, what files currently exist that have bad definitions? And it downloads a file of all of that. And then as you're downloading and interacting with data, it compares that against these definitions, determines whether or not these things are malicious. The problem that we're seeing is that new viruses are coming out so quickly at this point that that's not enough. So we moved to a product called Sophos Intercept X, and a plug, I guess, for Sophos, but there are a variety of next generation antivirus products. Sophos is one of them. CrowdStrike is another one. And these products leverage AI to look at what's actually happening in an application. So if you're running an application, what's it actually doing? Is it encrypting your files? Is it accessing things that it shouldn't be? Is it doing things on your behalf? Is it logging your keystrokes as you're trying to type in passwords? And it can block applications based on behavior instead of based on a set of definitions that often isn't as up to date as it needs to be. We're actually starting to offer CrowdStrike to a lot of our customers, and CrowdStrike has a more advanced offering yet, where they have a managed threat service, meaning that there are people at CrowdStrike that are actually looking at the antivirus software and seeing what it's doing on people's computers all over the world simultaneously, physical human eyes on the glass, to determine if things should be blocked that are not being caught by the AI, and to help companies like us mitigate a cybersecurity incident. Moving to a cloud desktop can help tremendously. So CIO Solutions offers a CIO private cloud. That's our version of the cloud. There are many clouds out there. Your IT company probably has one too. And a cloud desktop offers more centralized control and flexibility. It's personal. You can use personal devices or you can use company provided devices, but you get the same level of security across the board. And the reason for this is because instead of accessing company data from your personal computer that's not secured, you're remotely connected cloud environment that is in a data center somewhere else, and that's where the data is actually stored. So for our CIO customers, they, on their personal computer, they go to a website, they log into that website, it forms a secure connection from their computer to our data center, which is in Las Vegas, and they're accessing all of the data for their company through that secure connection. From a company standpoint, you don't have to worry about your data being on an unsecured personal computer. You don't have to worry about whether or not personal computers are protected with antivirus software. You don't have to worry about whether your stuff is being backed up, because we're backing it up. And you can make sure that if an employee leaves the organization, that their access is cut off and that there aren't remnants on their personal computer. And it's just an overall more secure platform. Employee education. Educate employees on email safety best practices. You should utilize a security awareness training tool. Our example was KnowBe4. That's the product that we use. There are other products out there. So all of our customers that we work with, we work to do simulated phishing attacks on all of our customers. So we have an employee, his name is Russ, and he works with KnowBe4, and he creates these simulated phishing attacks and basically phishes all of our customers once a month. And they all get hit with a simulated phishing email. And if they click on the link, it gives them a training to do. It assigns them a training. They've got like 30 days to do it, and the training takes 20 minutes or less. If they don't click on the link, great. See you next month. And we can provide a report to our customers that shows this is how many times we phished your employees. This is how many times they've clicked on the links. These are the employees that clicked on the link most often. And I'll give you a hint. It's usually the finance department or the C-level employees, honestly. And we can kind of show that over time, the phishing training is effective, because on the first campaign, we see something like a 30 to 40% click rate. And by campaign number 3 or 4, we're down to like a 5 or 6% click rate on those same users. So, it's been proven effective. It just increases your vigilance, because these are more advanced phishing techniques than the things that we often get, and we're like, haha, and delete them. They're a little bit better. And using SaaS backup services. So if you're using a third-party service like Microsoft Office 365, if you're using SharePoint, if you're using maybe Google's G Suite or Google Drive to store your files, there are third-party backup solutions that are designed to work with them. And they will take backups periodically throughout the day, or more often if you need them to, and they will keep the backups not only regular, but stored in a different data center. So for example, if Office 365 was unavailable for some reason, or your data was compromised, or a threat actor was able to get into it and encrypt your data, you'd be able to restore the backups from this third-party site. The product that we use is called Datto SaaS. There are many like it. That's just the one that we have standardized on. And we use that for all of our Office 365 customers. It's kind of our standard at this point. We back up all of their Office data, their Teams data, their SharePoint data, anything that would be in their personal OneDrive accounts, all of their emails, because from a responsibility perspective, it's Microsoft's responsibility to ensure the availability of your data, meaning that if their data center gets hit by a missile, they need to be able to have your data somewhere else and to be able to present that data to you. But it's not their responsibility to protect you from ransomware or from an event where like a malicious employee deleted something, or something to that effect. So the SaaS backup solutions are becoming increasingly more popular. They're relatively inexpensive. Datto SaaS is like $2.50 per user per month. So for a 10-user organization, it's $25 a month to back up all of your stuff in 365. So we've started using those as our standard. And prioritize security. As a user, be skeptical. Always double check outside of an email. Up the communication. Use a different form of communication. As a business, investigate current industry standards like multi-factor authentication, cyber liability insurance. Talk to your IT provider about your options. I'm sure your IT company, whoever you work with, has somebody like me who is assigned to work with customers like you and make sure that you're taking best practices and you're understanding the world in which we work and live. Because if you were an expert in IT, you probably wouldn't need an IT company like us. So we're experts in IT so that you don't have to be. Educate your employees and discuss IT security regularly, every 6 months to a year. Bring it up in your your staff meeting or your huddle or however your company converses, and just up the vigilance and make sure that your employees are at least aware of the fact that these things exist and that they could be compromised, and the toll that pays on business. So thank you for watching my presentation. I don't see any written Q&As at this point, so I'll hand it back to Glenn, and if somebody wants to pop in, I'll answer them.
Well, fantastic. Thanks, thanks, Jeff. Lots of good information. And so I have a couple quick questions, but then I just want to encourage those that are in the audience. At this point, I would say just use the raise your hand, or drop something into the question. We'll bring you in and do that. Jeff, the first question I had is, we talked a lot today about email, but is there similar risk profiles in texting, messaging services? You mentioned Slack. That's a tool we've adopted in our office. My sense is that something like Slack tends to be a closed environment, so maybe not. What are you finding in those other communication?
So from a messaging standpoint, Chris posted a question here, so I'll answer that as soon as I'll answer yours first, and then I'll go on to Chris's. Slack and Teams tend to be closed environments, which are the two biggest messaging apps that we're seeing customers use. And that's because you're required to authenticate against your company's domain. So like, for example, for me to sign up for Slack as a user under CIO Solutions, I need to have an email address at ciosolutions.com. And Slack is going to multi-factor authenticate me against my email address, which potentially could be compromised, but is going to authenticate me against my email address to verify my login to that application. With Microsoft Teams, we can secure that with multi-factor auth using Office 365, because it's part of the Office 365. So we can do that environment from a whole, nuts and bolts perspective. From text messaging, I get phishing texts every once in a while where people are trying to get me to click on things or do things or things of that nature. They're just not as advanced as the things that we see through email. I'm not saying that won't continue to advance in the future. And for high profile employees, like people that have their phone numbers available in a lot of places, like for example, me, I get a lot of them because my email address, my direct phone number in my email signature is my cell phone number. On all of the quotes that I write, it's my cell phone number. It's been in these presentations before. I've brought it up on countless occasions, and it's been in every email that I've ever sent to any one of my customers. And we've had customers that have gotten compromised. So basically all of the contact information in that customer's email box was readable by somebody at some point. So, I think I see more of that, but multi-factor authentication is always going to help. Having yourself protected with a password that and then a device that you have, like your iPhone or like an Apple Watch or whatever you may be using, and it doesn't have to be a pain. And that's something that like most people associate the bank login, because that's kind of a pain, right? You log in and it texts you this 10-digit code and you have to wait 5 minutes for it to show up, and like their systems kind of suck. But like Office 365, their MFA, it's like you click login, it says on your phone, authorize login, you click yes, it does your Face ID, and boom, you're in. And there's no like typing in of code or anything like that. It's very simple and easy to do. So I mean, right now they're safer, but I don't know that that's forever, I guess is what I'm saying. So Chris asked, with a switch to cloud-based solutions, Microsoft 365, cloud-based financial software, et cetera, we no longer have an on-premises server. And of my customers actually. Does that lessen the ransomware risk to just a single user's desktop? Guessing it would also encrypt OneDrive and SharePoint files that user has access to. So your guess is exactly right. So if it does lessen the risk of ransomware to the single user's desktop, plus the file shares that it has access to, which is kind of historically what we dealt with in the premise environment, but a little bit different. So if my computer gets ransomware, it'll encrypt all of the data that I have access to as file shares. And those file shares would be my OneDrive or my SharePoint site that I'm connected to, which is our Office 365 OneDrive file share. And it would encrypt all of the data for all of the SharePoint sites that I have access to inside that environment. And then it would encrypt the hard drive on my local computer. In the enterprise environment, it was a little bit worse, because what it would also do is it would look at my computer and it would find administrative credentials that were used by my IT company in the past to install applications, because on your computer, it would decrypt those, and then it would use those to install the ransomware on servers and other things throughout the organization. So it's not quite as bad, but it would still encrypt the data across the board, everything that the user has access to. So using a product like Datto SaaS, like I mentioned earlier, if our computers and cloud services are adequately backed up, does that lessen the ransomware risk to time spent restoring the backed up files? And yes, Chris, that's the answer. Having backups through in a third-party site like Datto SaaS or Backupify or whatever product your company decides to use that specializes in backing up whatever cloud-based application you use, that makes a ransomware event from something where it's a business loss and you're either paying the ransom or you're out this data forever, to something where you're just simply restoring from backups, you're recovering your data, and you can tend to be back up and running in a day or less, instead of having to rebuild that data for months on end. And we've seen both happen. We've had customers come to us before where they got a brand new customer, never before worked with us. They call us up, hey, we got hit by this ransomware. We didn't have good backups. What do we do? And really their choices are pay the ransom and hope that they give you the keys so that you can decrypt your data so that you can then get your stuff back, but they're still not out of your system. Or option B, you go back and you find your paper copies and you try to rebuild everything from emails and everything. And that's a nightmare. It's months and months of back-end services. Can you send the PowerPoint out, and do you have a list of outside backup companies to use? That's Jose's question. So I don't have a problem with PowerPoint presentation. I think the chamber can send it out to you if you want to reach out to them. They have access to it. We send it to them. So yeah, we're happy to do that.
And Jeff, just a note on that, each of the local chambers will have this recorded session available, and we can also, post at the same place the PowerPoint if you're okay with people having access to the actual slides.
So the next question from Jose was, do you have a list of outside backup companies to use? And honestly, most backup vendors, so there are a few that will work with customers directly, but most backup vendors work with IT companies like me. They don't want to be dealing with end users. They don't want to be working with people that have a lower technical aptitude. They want to be working with IT companies. So like we work with Datto. That is our partner that we work with, and we do premise-based backups. We do backups in our data center, and we do backups of Office 365, Google Suite using Datto products. But Datto won't sell direct to a consumer. Now, we're not the only Datto partner. Alltech in Rio Grande is also a Datto partner, and they specialize in working with very, very small businesses. So they have a couple customers where they are only selling backup services, where what we provide is more of an IT management service, where we're helping with all aspects of IT and doing help desk support for your end users and network design and architecture and kind of some more advanced stuff. And we might be a bigger company than some small businesses would work with, but there are smaller companies that do work with those types of businesses. So my recommendation would be to reach out to your IT provider or whoever helps you with your break fix IT services. They will likely have a vendor that they prefer to work with. And because of that, they'll have a higher level of familiarity with the product. It'll tend to be the same price to you as a customer, because we get heavy discounting so that we can retail it for the same price as what they're giving it to you for, while offering add-on services on top of that. Like, we're experts in this product and we know how to use it, and we can call them on your behalf. And yeah, so my recommendation would be to reach out to your IT company or whoever does your IT services. If you're not working with an IT company, feel free to, you can reach out to us, or there's other IT companies in the area that are all very good that I've worked with in the past. And I'm sure that we can help you out and find something that would be a good fit for you. And Chris asked, are these bad actors mostly in other countries? And Chris, that's a great question. yes, honestly. We are seeing that a lot of them are coming from China, Russia, South Africa seems to be heavy really recently, but not necessarily. The answer isn't always yes, because there are these VPN technologies that exist. So I don't know if you're familiar with VPN technologies, but basically like there are tools that I can download on my computer that allow me to form a tunnel from my computer to another country and then browse the internet as though I'm sitting in that other country. So you could use this to, say that there's a TV show on HBO that's only being released in Canada. I could pretend like I'm from Canada, and then I could watch it on their HBO app. And it's used to anonymize internet traffic. That's why they market them. So like NordVPN or other applications like that. So a threat actor can use those types of applications to anonymize their traffic to be coming from the United States, and can therefore circumvent country blocking. So we do, as a default, enable country blocking on Office 365, for example. So we say that you can't log in from anything other than like the United States, Mexico, Canada, like our normal geographic region. And that sometimes creates support issues for us, because a customer will call in, hey, I went on vacation and I'm in Australia and I need it unblocked for a month, and we'll do that. But it's not 100% a fix. So
Jeff, kind of a combo question. So I'm thinking about things like, your fingerprint, reader on your phone is a security tool. These passport or password vaults, right? Which in theory generate randomized password.
Correct.
Do those help, or are they? Is that a good strategy, or
yeah, I think that those help quite a bit. So there's a plus and minus, right? So I personally use LastPass, but I also I'm in the Apple infrastructure. So I have an Apple iPhone and I have a MacBook Air, my personal laptop, and I have an iPad as well. Like most people, we have multiple devices, whether it's Apple or Android. So I use LastPass, and then I also end up using like Safari's Keychain, which is the Apple password manager, as part of that too, because sometimes it'll automatically be generated by your phone. I think that those tools are really good because they do a couple of things. One, they create anonymous passwords when you're logging into websites, because you shouldn't be using the same password for every single website. Oftentimes, there is a length of time before a vendor needs to notify its users of a breach. And it's a couple of weeks. So if you have a company, a big company like Home Depot or Target or some of these places that have in the past been hit, and they have a breach and your password is out there, it gets sold in a data dump on the dark web to somebody, and now they have all of these usernames and passwords. And what do they immediately do? They look for your email address and they try to log into your Gmail account or your Outlook account or your Hotmail account or your AOL account with that same password. And if you're using that, then they get in your email account. Now it's like, okay, well, this person uses Chase. Let's try to log into Chase. Oh, two-factor, let's send that to email. Now I can log into email. Your email is kind of like the central hub for authentication purposes. So it's really critical to secure that. So having these password authentication tools like LastPass or 1Password or any one of those, it will suggest a secure password. This will be this 16-character alphanumeric mess that you can't help to, like, there's no way you're ever going to remember it. And then it gives you really one password to manage, and that's your password to LastPass. And then you secure that with a two-factor authentication, and you should, in theory, be good. Now, some people would ask, well, what happens if LastPass gets compromised? Is all of my data out there? These companies that produce these password database applications, they enable encryption, and that encryption key is your password and your multi-factor authentication key. So in theory, even if their data was compromised, they wouldn't be able to read your passwords in plain text. Now, that's not to say that nobody's ever done it wrong. I'm sure that it's happened before, but in my experience, we've never had an issue where a company like LastPass has never been compromised in a way where customer passwords were taken. And the other thing is, it gives you these little pushes to make yourself more secure. So if you go in and you log into a website, it'll be like, hey, you use this password somewhere else, you should change them. and it'll prompt you to change your password. And then okay, so I'll go into the website and I'll change my password and make that something better. Or it'll say, this password has appeared on a breach in the past, you should change it. And it's aware of all of those breaches. It can even send you emails to let you know if one of your passwords appeared in a breach. And that's something that we do for all of our customers too. And I didn't really touch on it in the presentation. We partner with a service to do dark web monitoring, which basically we search the at CIO Solutions domain, and we show all of the email addresses that have ever appeared in a breach and where that was breached. So Target or Home Depot or CDW or whatever the vendor was, so that the users can update their passwords and know what they are. And we can provide those reports to any customers that want them on a regular basis. So that's another service that we've adopted, and there are plenty of them out there. We use, I think it's called Dark Trace to do it, and it's worked well for us.
Well, this has been really helpful, and I think really important information for folks. As we wrap up, if you were to get, somebody's watching this now or on a video later, small, normal, Central Coast based business, they're thinking, I hadn't really thought about this before, but maybe I ought to be a little worried. What's the first two things you'd tell them to go do right now?
I would say enroll in a phishing training service like we use KnowBe4, but something like that, and adopt multi-factor authentication specifically for your email accounts. If nothing else, protect your emails with MFA, and that at least protects people from being able to. The biggest source of liability that I see at this point is if somebody comes in and they compromise my email account and pretend to be me, and they take one of my customers or one of my vendors for a substantial amount of money, and then it creates this problem where you're in the community as this insecure organization that was breached and then had another company whose money was stolen because of it. And there's no good that can come from that at all. And it's relatively easy to do. It's relatively painless from an end user perspective, especially with email. It only authenticates you when you first log in. So, I enroll my iPhone with multi-factor authentication, and then my iPhone is it's enrolled at that point. It's a trusted device, and I can send and receive email on that device for as long as I want to. And when I get a new iPhone, I have to enroll that, but I don't have to do it I don't have to do it every day to check my email. It's not a pain. So I would say MFA for emails is probably the biggest thing that you can do to increase your security, and phishing training is probably the easiest thing that you can do to increase employee vigilance. And they go the furthest.
Fantastic. Hey, thank you very much for joining us. I want to thank the audience that came in as well. Just remind everybody, within a day or so, we'll have a recorded version of this available on your local chamber's website, and appreciate their support. Jeff, really appreciate you and the team at CIO, your willingness to be an expert for our businesses in the community. And thanks for coming today and sharing.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, everybody have a great day. We'll see you at our next webinar. Appreciate it.